Alright guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Spyderco manix2. And today, I also wanted to try something a little different. And we are also going to be talking about my persistence, my other Spyderco. Because through my carry of the manix2 over the last 2 weeks, I have been drawing parallels between these two knives that I wanted to talk about. Even though they are completely different knives, I found similarities between them. So yeah, let's get right into it. So first off, let's take a look at the blade length on the manix2. And from tip to grind, we are at 3 inches for the manix2. And from the choil to the butt, we're at 5 inches, and the knife overall is 8 inches long. Bam. That's a pretty hardy knife. And then, so the persistence here, let's see, from tip to choil, 3 inches long. From, or not to choil, but to the grip. The grip on this as a whole is just over 4 inches, and full length is just a hair short of 7 inches. So it looks like we're at 6 3/4. And these are some pretty thin knives. At the blade, it looks like we are at a 32nd. At the scales, we are just under 1/2 inch. On the persistence, we are at the same width at the blade. And at the scale, we are also at the same width of almost at 1/2 inch. So again, the width of the blades and the width of the scales are exactly the same. And if you also noticed while I was measuring the blade lengths, the blades are actually the same length between these two knives. The persistence has a little more belly to it, but these blades are almost identical, which is insane for how huge this knife is, that it has the same cutting surface as this knife here. As you can see there, this knife has seen some wear. I've owned my persistence for at least 3 years now, and this knife, especially for being 8CR13, has been an amazing work knife. I've beaten the living shit out of this knife, as you've seen on this blade. I mean, this thing has seen work. Yeah, I mean, look at the scales on there. This is just a beefy knife for how small it is. It's pretty insane. The G10 was pretty grippy at one point, but now it's a little broken in. It's a little worn. So it's not as grippy as it once was. I heat stained the clip. So I guess you'd call that fire steel. I didn't want to paint it because I didn't want the paint to chip and wear. So what I did actually was I took the pocket clip off and burnt it over the oven, or not the oven, the stove, and got it to this dark patina color. It hasn't rusted, but it's like a brownish blue. Like you see hints of blue anodization over the brown. And it's pretty cool. I like it so far. Then the lanyard. But yeah, so that's the persistence. Love this knife. Recommend it all day if you're looking for a budget knife, but you don't want something as big as tenacious. This is an amazing everyday knife. But what we're really here for is the manix2. So again, It's insane that you get all this knife for just 3 inches of cutting surface, but there's so much. This is such a versatile knife, especially for a work knife. You can get back here on the handle and get up on the thumb, and you really can get some power in for some draw cuts that way. You can get into the finger choil and really get into some grip there. But I have a weird way of choiling a knife. The way I do it is middle finger there. So almost kind of like you're going to use the choil, except for I kind of hold it on the side. So I kind of pinch it like that, and that usually helps me get a lot more control over the knife. So I have a weird stance that's kind of like that, because again, this is my first time using a knife with a finger choil. So usually if I really need to get in there, I would just get up on the blade like this and grab it with the thumb and the pointer finger, and usually get a finer control, a finer cut like that. But yeah, no, but the choil makes things amazing too. I mean, you can really get in there, really get into what you're trying to do with this knife. This is the pinned version, so everything's pinned except for the blade and the pocket clip. This one's got the Spyderco wire clip on it. The texturing on this knife is just amazing. I mean, it's aggressive, but it's not enough that it's going to tear your hand, especially if you're going to be working all day. The ergonomics on this knife is just great. It's a little on the thick side, but the way it contours, so you have a little bit of jimping here, but you have like this little rest area for your thumb right there, and it's just, like I said, it's just amazing, the fit. And then when you get up on the choil too, like getting up on this jimping here and this jimping, I mean, it's amazing. Like I said, I can 8 hours a day just cutting cardboard with this knife is no problem. The BD1 steel is great. Compared to like AUS 8 and 8CR13, this knife I've only had to sharpen once a week, where 8CR13 and AUS 8, with the work I do, I'd have to sharpen these knives about every other day. So the blade or the edge retention on something like the BD1 compared to an 8CR or an AUS 8 is just amazing, and I just couldn't believe it. The only things I really didn't like about this knife are the scales. Like I said, I kind of abuse my knives at my work with the type of work I do, so getting into some like really hardcore situations that's a little outside of a knife's job was a little scary with this. I didn't really feel it flex, but it didn't feel like the strongest under some of the circumstances of how I use a knife. And another thing that wasn't the greatest about this knife too was this came like this. I didn't do this, but the blade isn't rubbing, but it's a little off center. Sorry, trying to get my stupid phone to focus. Yeah, so you see the blade is favoring the pocket clip side, and this knife actually came like that. That isn't from the work I've been doing. So, but that one's not a huge deal because it's not rubbing, it's just a little off center. But yeah, and the other thing is especially with the pin design, I can take this knife apart to oil. So the screw backed out a little bit, so I had to tighten her back down, and now the action on the knife isn't the greatest. And you know what? I can't get in there to oil it because this knife doesn't come apart. I mean, I could take this off, but it'd be a fucking nightmare to get it back together with everything pressure fitted. So now I need to find an oiler that's kind of needle style, so I could get in between the scales, like back this screw out, get in between the scales and actually oil the knife. So to get this thing work ready again and in action that I would like is a pain in my ass. So I need to find an oiler to get that thing back to an action where I like. This guy here has phosphor bronze bushings. The Manix, I am not 100. But let's take a peek. And yeah, so to me, I can't get the show on the phone, but yeah, this has got the phosphor bronze bushings in it too, which we can get the action amazing in this knife, but I need to get it oiled. I usually am cheap, so I just use your basic, generic, everyday 3-in-1 oil. I just use it on the pivot because it's not food safe, so I do not oil the blades with the 3-in-1, but I do use it for lubrication, and it's been working great so far. So that's what I use for a lubricant, is just your basic 3-in-1 oil. But yeah, so like I said, this knife has been amazing. The edge retention, when you get the action right, the knife itself is just badass. And the other thing, for the size of it, it's insanely lightweight. I mean, you can wear this all day and not know that you have a knife in your pocket. I mean, it's insane. I'm pretty sure it's lighter than my Persistence, which is 2 inches shorter. Which again is fucking nuts. But this one has this hardcore chunky, like I said, the chunky liners on it. So yeah, but like I said, if you're looking for a great knife, EDC, even work knife, I'd say go ahead and get the manix2. Just for the edge retention alone, I mean, it's fucking awesome. This knife is great. It's beefy. It's amazing. But if you need something lightweight and something that'll cut all day, no issues, breaking down cardboard, cutting up zip ties, breaking open packaging, this knife does wonders. It's magical. The ATR 13 is great. I like it, but after feeling a little more better steel, or having used a little more better steel, I am loving the BD1 over the HCR. The texturing on the manix2, like I said, is great. It's super, I mean, it's not aggressive, but it's super tacky, super grippy, but it won't tear up your hands. As of where when the G10 was new, I love G10, but the texturing on these guys can be evil, especially on your pants. This, I didn't notice too much of an issue with my denim, but my denim's already getting pocket tear, but that was from another knife. I don't think this one added to it. Yeah, so that's been my look at the Spyderco manix2 and the Spyderco Persistence. If you got any more questions or something I overlooked that you have a question about, go ahead and shoot a question in the comments. I may get to it in a future video, or maybe I'll talk about it on my Instagram. But yeah, so that's been my look at these two knives. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, a great evening, morning, day, wherever time it is when you're watching this video. Get out, enjoy some adventure, get out in the world, have some experiences, do some shit, you know, and have a good life. Alright, so this is Davis, signing out.